here with my friend Tim Boyer. We're having a good conversation, like I do with everyone I talk to before we start recording. And I really wanted to bring you on because I love your Instagram posts. It's inspirational. You post your workouts. I always say that self-motivation is really important, but also you have to look at motivation like sticks. In other words, when you're self-motivated, you're one stick. But when you have 7 or 8 other people that help you stay motivated, now you're unbreakable. So what I like using social media for personally is I want to inspire others with my stuff, but I also want to get inspiration from others. So there's several people I follow, you being one of them, that I always look at your training clips every time they go up, because that gives me fire too. We all feed off each other's fire. Exactly. And that to me is the best way to use social media, instead of this narcissistic endeavor where it's, let me see how much attention I can get. Let's make a contribution and then also enjoy the contributions other people are making.
Exactly. I've met a ton of great people too. Since I used to post my workouts when I was in powerlifting, and it's never been like the kettlebell community. Since I've started posting that, I've met so many awesome people, just so many cool people. I started posting on Reddit. That was the first place I posted on.
Remember you saying that?
Just to get a form check. And
yeah. I
remember posting on there nervous because Reddit's full of trolls. The very first post I ever posted, of course I got a troll. Because at the time I was 355 when I started. And somebody was like, "Oh, you're too fat to do kettlebells. You got to drop the kettlebells and start running." So that was the very first experience I had, but I stuck with it because what the hell.
Who would say that to your face, though? That's what I would say, Joel. No one would. Care. Yeah. And if someone did, there's going to be repercussions eventually. Maybe not from you, but someone else. Someone eventually is not going to tolerate it. So where I'm going, it's easy to be a keyboard warrior and diminish other people and try to make other people feel bad so you feel better about yourself. I never understood the motivation of trolls. But I mean, it's obvious what the motivation is. I just don't understand why they're motivated by that. They just want to get a rise out of people. Like they love, they love tweeting to celebrities and then getting some kind of response. Even if the celebrities, hey, go fuck yourself. They're like, oh man, I got him to say that to me. I got him to give me some time. I go, but why would you want that kind of attention though? I don't get
it. There's a whole group of people that follow like Instagram personalities.
Oh yeah.
Just spend their whole day following them and talking shit about them. Like
right.
That doesn't bother me because I don't care. If you're gonna say I can't do something, I'll prove you wrong.
Right.
I'll just use it as fuel. It doesn't bother me one bit.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the way to frame it. I was listening to Rob from Machine Head, the lead singer of Machine Head. I forget his last name right now. But anyway, he has a podcast that's really good. And he was talking about how whenever he posts pictures of his family or him performing with Machine Head online, he gets a few comments and a few likes. But whenever he posts something political, all of a sudden, whoever has opposing views comes out of nowhere. He goes, it's always the same 5 people that immediately respond whenever I post anything, as if they have some kind of alert that lets them know.
They'll come out of the woodwork for that. That's why I try to stay not political on my posts at all. Just avoid it.
Because I used to have a really negative view of social media. In fact, I got rid of Facebook and Twitter in 2018. I just felt both were a total waste of time. And I was using Instagram at that time, but I almost got rid of that too, because I just didn't really feel it was serving me in any way, especially now that I'm a designer of nutrition supplements. I'm not training people anymore. I'm not teaching courses. I'm not out there. I go, what am I going to do? I'm just going to post pictures of my products every day. What am I supposed to do with this thing? Because for me, it was to serve building my business. I don't have a personal page. I have a business page. But then Matt Brown made a really good point, either on my podcast or someone else's. I forget which one. But he said that people that complain about all the stuff they see on social media, that's really on you, because you don't have to follow those people.
Yeah.
Because I follow people that are doing great things, inspiring things. So that's what I see in my feed every day. And I go, yeah, he's got a good point. I mean, if you're following a bunch of people that irritate you, why are you following them? That's on you.
That's what I cut a lot of people off. I was ready to actually get rid of Facebook, but I'm in a lot of good kettlebell groups on Facebook. So I'm not going to do that.
No, and you don't need to. My friend Sincere Hogan has the same attitude. He's engaged with a lot of groups over there, and that's why he hasn't gotten rid of it. It's all how you use it. It doesn't have to be this absolute decision either way. Either you use it all the time or you never use it. If
Yeah.
it's serving you in a positive way, then by all means use it. I got rid of Twitter because that to me was just one big flame war. It was always just
I've never even used Twitter at all.
yeah. Twitter took a while for me to even bother with. There was a marketing guy who said, hey, this is a great medium. It's way more effective than Facebook. Now, this is back in, I don't know, 2007 or 8, something like that. Like, okay, I'll play ball with this. I'll try it for a while. And it was okay. And I had some benefits from using it. I had some business building benefits from using it. But overall, I just got tired of seeing the vitriol. And that's what you see so much of, because it's so easy on there, because you're limited to a sentence or so you can't really provide any context.
Yeah, it's just hit and run, hit and run.
Right, exactly. At least with Instagram, it's more videos, it's more pictures, and then you can provide some context. I don't know if anyone reads any of the context.
Yeah, people do.
But you can provide it. So at least you have that going there. When did you get into kettlebell training?
Okay, so the first time back in 2010, actually, you were one of the first people I followed. I remember seeing your stuff. Pat Flynn was one of the people I followed. You and Steve Cotter had videos back in, like, I think it was 2010, 2000. I remember watching him like work out on a dock or something. It was like his old videos, if you remember them.
Oh yeah.
So that's what I first started getting into them back then. And then I bought 2 35-pound, 2 16K ones and used them for a little bit. And then I joined the gym and started getting into like the bro split.
Right.
And the kettlebells went to the side because I really love bench pressing and deadlifting. So the kettlebells went away until April, until the pandemic hit.
Yeah. And we were talking about some of the injuries you unfortunately experienced during powerlifting. So let's talk about your powerlifting story for a little bit. So when did you get into powerlifting?
Back in 2017. Before that, I was just doing your typical, 3 times 10 sets, just a regular bodybuilding split. I was into all that for a while. Then I started doing 5x5 stuff, which that got me in the powerlifting. Then I was doing 5-3-1, which that's when that's a really good program. Then my numbers started really taking off on the 5-3-1 program.
Yeah.
So from 2017, like I told you earlier, I started out my deadlift at 225, and it was probably like 2016 actually I started, because I got married in 2016. So it was in like October when I got married, I started hitting the gym doing powerlifting then. So by August of 17, I deadlifted 500 pounds.
Yeah, that's impressive.
My deadlift jumped really quick, and my form was really bad though. When I was like back, I have videos now, and when I go back and look at the videos now, it's, my hips are going up. I mean, my back is like really rounded and just terrible form. But
sometimes when you make big leaps in numbers, form often takes a hit. I've been there myself.
My squat was okay. My bench, I love benching, was my favorite thing. I wanted to hit 400. That was my goal. I got 385.
Yeah, I had the same goal. 365 is the most I ever got. I actually hit 365 when I was in my 20s. And then when I got into kettlebell training, I didn't go to a gym for many years. I just did kettlebell workouts. I was living in Los Angeles. I would go to the beach. I would train there. I go, why would I want to go to a gym? I never had a gym membership for the whole 4 years I was in Los Angeles. And then I got back into it when I started working with Mark Philippi. He's one of the, I don't know if you're familiar with,
I don't think it's
former strongman competitor, elite strength coach. So I did a video project with him where I went to his gym 4 times a week, trained under his tutelage, and then we made a video about the experience. And we did a lot of the big basic movements again. So squats, deadlifts, bench press, things I hadn't done in a long time. And it lit a fire again. I go, man, I love doing these movements. I forgot all about these. So even after I stopped training with him for a few months, I joined a gym to continue those lifts. So I worked back up to that 365 pretty fast. I think it was 2010 I hit that, or 2011, somewhere around then. And I was thinking, hey, I'm knocking on the door of 400 pounds. This is pretty cool. But then I started getting some arthritis in each elbow, and it was hard for me to lock out. I could feel that I probably could have pushed through it, but I didn't feel it was worth pushing through it.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah. I didn't want to put on sleeves and a bench press shirt and a triple belts. It's just I go, who cares? I'm not a competitive powerlifter. Who cares about doing that? So
That's when I got to that point.
yeah, you never want to let your ego dictate what you're trying to achieve, but in some ways it's hard not to have your ego dictate.
It did for me. It got me injured.
Yeah, yeah. So when you try to make progress too soon, it's hard to keep technique on point because if you start compromising a little bit and then a little bit more and then a little bit more, and now at my age, I'm 47, I'm very meticulous about technique. And not to say that I don't push it too hard and get injured, nothing serious, fortunately, that happens. That's that kind of wear and tear. But I'm always very meticulous. One of the reasons I like filming clips that I do is it allows me to see what I look like when I'm doing it. Because sometimes when you're doing it, you're thinking, okay, this feels good. And then
you look at it and you're like, oh my God, what is that? I do the same thing all the time when I film something. I'm like, oh man, that felt really good. Like a snatch.
Yeah.
I'll film a snatch and I'm like, God, that felt amazing. And I'll look at it, I'm like, oh man, what was that?
Yeah.
It looks so bad.
Yeah, it's amazing the difference sometimes. And then sometimes it's the other direction. You go, I don't know, that didn't feel too good. And you watch it, okay, that looks pretty good. That wasn't too bad. That looked pretty good. So it's actually really useful feedback. And I like being able to scroll through my own feed. It's almost a history of my training for the last several years.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you haven't done a move in a while and you start doing it again and you go, something's wrong here. I don't know something feels off. And then you look at one of your older clips and go, okay, that's what I need to do. I forgot to drop my hips at this moment. I forgot to grip it this way. So it's useful. It gives you really useful feedback. So you're powerlifting, and how long did you do that?
That was up until probably like 2018 when I got injured. I gained a bunch of weight at that time because I lost a bunch of weight for my wedding. I got married in October of 2016. So I had lost a bunch of weight then. I was over 300. I think at the time, I told you I've lost and gained so many times. It's hard to keep track of which, So I was like 340, I think, and I got down to like 280 at my wedding. But I was doing no carbs again because that was always like my default for some reason.
Yeah.
So it's like a blessing and a curse to losing weight the first time like that because I always, it always like I can't lose weight without carbs, which is
right.
Not true. But so I lost it for my wedding and I wanted to do it quick too. So I got down to like 280, got married. Then I started putting it a little back on. And then I got down to around 265 when I was powerlifting and all, and I was really feeling good. Then she got pregnant, and that's when I started. Then I started, I think I was sympathy eating.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask, what do they call that? A sympathy pregnancy?
I was like, what do you want? Do you want something? Do you want pizza? And then it's like, I'll get pizza. Then I want pizza. Now, then it's like, I'm getting pizza. Now I'm getting ice cream. Now, I turned into and when I go, like, I have a history of binging. So when I go off the rails, I really, like, I've added it up before. And I think, like, I was eating like over 6,000 calories a day at the time.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was like,
and then that a stress response for you. What compels the binging?
I'm not really sure. It is stress. Like when stress hits, like I'll go, and I've got it under control this time. I think. I hope. I haven't done that in a while, but at the time, I know like whenever I was stressed, I would like secret eat too, in my car, and I'll tell my wife I'm like housing a bag of potato chips, stuff like that. So. It's always been like a de-stressor for me to just eat something, even when I know it's counterintuitive to my goals. Like I'll pull into, like, I don't know how familiar you are with the East Coast. Like there's a convenience store, Wawa, up in
I'm actually East Coast, but I'm not familiar with that one. I'm from DC.
Yeah, it's pretty big in the Philly, Jersey area. I'm from Philly, so that's And I would pull into the parking lot of Wawa and go get chips and a hot dog or something like that, knowing, it's just bad.
It's so easy to do, though. It's so readily available. I mean, everywhere you go, it's in your face. You go fill up gas station and you go inside real quick to get something. What do you see? It's just junk food everywhere. You go to the casinos in Las Vegas. It's just one terrible restaurant after another.
I'm in 10 minutes from the casinos here. So I'm like 15 minutes from Atlantic City. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're really close out there. Right, right. So I mean, it's easy to fall into those traps. I think some people get really judgmental when they can eat whatever they want and get away with it, and they take a lot of credit for that, saying, "Hey, I can eat whatever I want. I'm still lean because I'm doing all these things." I go, "No, no, no. It's not because you're doing all those things. You just have a genetic card that allows you to eat
I
whatever
don't
you."
have that card. I
Yeah.
put on weight
Yeah.
really fast.
Well, some people get strong really easily too. They just start working out and bam, 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 they get strong real fast. For me, it always was a really long process. I was really weak when I started. It took a long time. But as someone in the fitness industry, that's actually a good thing because it gives you a lot of empathy with people.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be one of those trainers that gets frustrated when someone has a difficult time doing what you think is an easy movement. It's going, come on, all you got to do is this. And it's you're not going to have that feeling though when it was difficult for you too. You're going to get it. You're going to be like, you know what? I've been where you are, at least in the ballpark where you are. I get it. So let's just start with something that'll give you a success, and then we can build our way back up there. But I think a lot of people like to take too much credit for their own success, where they think that everyone is at the same level, going, okay, you feel exactly the way I feel, and your body responds exactly the way mine does. So why can't you make it work like I do? Is off mentality.
Well, there's so much that goes into it too. It's so much more emotional stuff that it's not just, emotional and mentally is way more challenging than just actually sticking to a diet. It's all mental. It's for me anyway, it's always been all mental. I have, like I'm telling you, I'm binging and then I fall into that trap where I'll start tomorrow. It's always tomorrow. Right. I'll start tomorrow. Okay. And I would use that as a crutch to, when I'm in that binge phase. Okay, well, I'll just eat this, and then tomorrow I'll start. And it gives you, it always gives you an excuse to eat like an asshole that day, and then the next day, and then the next day, and then before you know it, 7 months has passed, and that's what happened. Like this past time, up until March, when I got on the scale, I was 355, and that's the biggest I've ever been in my life. And that's scary too. And I'm not young anymore, And the pandemic hit, and that's when reality slapped me in the face, because that's, I have a 2-year-old that I want to see grow up. I have a 20-year-old son now, but I don't want to be around to watch him get married someday. Or be there for him. And I just felt that's what really kicked me in the ass, like when this all happened, because I was at my heaviest and I felt like a failure. I'm into fitness and I love going to the gym. I've been consistent with that. I've just always gotten stronger as I've gotten fatter. But I was like, I just felt like a failure. Like if I would have died in April or March, caught COVID and died, it just was a real heavy feeling on me. And I felt like a disgrace, kind of.
That's a horrible place to be.
Yeah.
Now, I've been there, not from weight. I've never had weight struggles, but I've had a lot of mental health struggles. So I understand that feeling that you're saying. And it's a terrible feeling to have.
Yeah.
I felt that way before I got into this industry. I go, man, if I die right now, my life means nothing. It's like I didn't do anything. I didn't accomplish anything. I didn't make any kind of contribution. And then once I got into the industry and started having some success, finally doing something that I love doing and transforming into who I knew I thought I could be, at that point, that feeling started going away. Not that I wanted to die, but I was thinking, you know what? Even if I die right now, it's okay, because I actually got in the arena. I pulled the trigger. I'm having some success. I did what I always wanted to do. At least I got started doing what I always wanted to do. So I can live with that, or I can die with that. But I felt before that, forget it. That would have been
just like a deep disappointment in myself that I let myself get to that point, because I know better too. Like I followed your work for years. I followed all these fitness people. I know way better than to let myself get to that point. And then I think of all the hard work it took me before to lose weight, and it kind of gets like, here we go again. It gets to be a daunting task every time you do it. You think of how long it takes, and it's like, and it just but then what are you going to do? You have to do it eventually. So.
Yeah, you have to do it. I think you have to commit to a process and not worry about where you're going so much. So you just focus on excellence in the process and being consistent. If you can focus on excellence in the process and consistency, you'll get to wherever you want to go without being attached to that. It may take longer than you like, and in some ways it's good if it takes longer.
It
It's
is.
it's honestly better if it takes you, let's say, 3 years. Let's say someone's 100 pounds overweight and it takes them 3 years to lose it. Let's say even 5 years. That's actually not a bad thing at all, because 5 years is really not that long of a time. I mean, when you're a teenager in high school, 5 years feels like forever. But as you get older, 5 years is nothing. I mean, 4 years goes by. Yeah, I mean, now, as I get, I mean, even this year, this month is going to be over before we know it. This year will be over before we know it, just like last year. So if you don't take charge of things, time is just going to get away from you. You're going to lose all of it. So 5 years. So when someone said, if I told someone, hey, it's going to take 5 years to lose 100 pounds, that's discouraging, but it's discouraging because of the expectations a lot of people have. They've watched way too many commercials of lose 30 pounds in 30 days, and you can lose 100 pounds in 6 months, like the people
victim to that
do. Yeah.
But that was my mindset too. Like I knew how long things would take, but I always wanted it quicker and quicker.
Right.
So I was always doing these little things that, like, let's get it done this fast, let's get it done that fast. And in the long run, look where it got me. Like the long run, it just led me back to every time getting fatter and fatter and fatter. So, it was a process of like, I'll crash diet here, crash diet there, and then just gain it all back. And this time I'm not crash dieting. I'm taking my time with it. Like if I lose, I lose. And I've been doing really good losing wise, sustaining it and all. But I'm not worried about how fast.
Do you enjoy eating the food that you eat each day?
Yes.
Much your options, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not like starving myself either. We pretty much like have a set menu. Me and my wife go food shopping every Sunday. We go to Trader Joe's every Sunday and get the same. We have a 7-day menu pretty much. Right. And then like Saturday rolls around, and every Saturday we get a pizza on Saturday night, and I enjoy it, and I don't feel any guilt about it. And you know what I mean?
It doesn't derail your diet. You don't feel like eating another pizza the next day or anything like that. It hits the spot good.
Yeah, I'm at a spot where I can fit everything in. I have a certain, like, that's the way I do my diet now, is I just count calories. I do calorie count, and I count my protein, and I let the fat and carbs interchange.
Right.
And everything's pretty easy as long as I hit, you know what I mean? And I don't stress. Before I was trying to, if it fits your macros thing, and stressing every little. And now I don't stress over fat and carbs. As long as I hit my protein goals, I'm fine.
Yeah. So you're not. It's not miserable for you each day where you're going, here's another morning meal. You find what you and your wife have found ways to make it enjoyable, and that's important. That's how you sustain it.
Pretty much, it's pretty easy now.
And once it becomes routine like that, that allows the consistency to start coming pretty rapidly. The scary thing though is that, I'm sure this is on your mind too, is how fast things can derail, because you've been there many times. So you know that that's always in the back of your mind. You're going, okay, I'm good right now, but the past has shown me that it's this easy for me to deviate. When you had fallen off in the past, was there anything that was a common response for why you fell off? Was there something that was a consistent reason for why you fell off?
Yeah, well, I've been divorced twice, both times.
That's stress. That'll do it.
Yeah. So you get the stress of that, and then you get the new relationship when you meet somebody new.
Right.
And then everything's all, happy, and you just, there's that happy phase where you just do whatever you want to do.
Right.
We're out every night, going to bars, eating out every day.
Yeah.
That stuff start, before you know it, 40 more pounds have packed on.
Yeah, I mean, it's virtually impossible to eat healthy out. Whenever I eat out, I always look at it as, this is just fun. It's entertainment. But if I ate out every day, even trying to pick healthy options, it's really difficult, because restaurants are not trying to make the food as healthy as possible.
They're trying to make you buy more.
Yeah, exactly. They're trying to make it cost effective, and if anything, they want you to get addicted to the food so that you want more of it and come back for more. So it's really difficult. When people I know that travel a lot, they often have a really difficult time initially until they learn a couple of things you have to do. So if you're flying all the time, make sure you have food with you so that you're not going to the food court at every airport you're at.
Yeah, that's hard. That's really hard.
Yeah, it's extremely difficult. And it's also extremely difficult when you're super hungry and there's no good option around. So you go, okay, this time I'll just do this. But then that time becomes every time. You just fall right back into those habits.
I'm also too a former smoker, so I was smoking, and when I quit, that was like I used to be easier to diet when I smoked because
Yeah. You're getting the nicotine hit. Yeah.
instead of like eating, I would be like, okay, if I'm hungry, I'll just go smoke a cigarette, and that would then when I quit, it was instead of like I have an hour drive to and from work every day,
Oh,
so
wow.
a lot of time in my car, so
Yeah.
I replaced that too with potato chips, you know.
Right. See, the thing about smoking is you get a dopamine hit every time you smoke a cigarette. So
Yeah,
when smokers quit that, now you're chasing that dopamine hit somewhere else. And what's the easiest substitute? Food, because that gives you a dopamine hit too. So
that
that's
was
a common experience. So
that was like
we're
depressing.
all wired to be addicted.
What's that?
We're all wired for
Oh
addiction.
yeah,
It's
that
part of the
was.
condition.
I never want to go like the withdrawal from that too was really hard.
Oh
It
yeah.
was like super depressing. Like the first month, it was like a good month of just every night I was just depressed on my way to work. Like
Yeah.
it was like losing a friend. I'm like, oh, what do I do with myself now?
Right.
It was
Right.
weird. Now I don't even think about it. Now it's like, I'm like, why? That was so stupid. I spent so many years and so much wasted money on stupid, like just smoking. So dumb.
I smoked for a couple years when I was in high school, and I remember when I quit, it was actually really difficult. I mean, I think I went back and forth a few times until I finally just said, okay, this is it, never again. And what really helped me was getting into training because I wasn't an athlete in high school. I wasn't a fit person by any means or an active person. I was really into the hardcore scene. I know you were. I used to go to
Yeah.
concerts and that. I guess the most activity I got was stage diving, being in the mosh pit, all 160 pounds of me at that time. And so I wasn't someone who had some kind of experience with physical activity to use as fuel to get going later in life. So that was a tough habit to get going. But one thing I noticed is I got one day I remember I felt really tired of just being weak. I'm like, man, I'm 18 years old and I'm tired all the time. My body looks like shit. I feel terrible. So my dad bought me a weight training set for either my birthday or Christmas, and it was the kind of weight training set where if you put too much weight on the bar, the whole bench flips over. It was really flimsy, right? But I'm not strong, so that's enough. That's enough to get things going. And I remember when I started lifting weights and making a little bit of progress. I think my bench press, I couldn't even do 135, but when I got it to 185 in a month or so, I felt like the strongest guy in the world. I go, this is great. I like this feeling. And when I got to 200 pounds, I felt like I was, I could go compete somewhere. I was
Yeah.
totally delusional because then you didn't have the internet. So you didn't really have, you're looking at the bodybuilding magazines and all that, but there's a disconnect there. You don't really see people.
I remember 135. The first time you hit 135, you feel like the big guy because you get the big plates on. Then the 200 number, you feel
Yeah.
awesome again. I remember that.
You're like, I'm a member of the 200-pound club now. Yeah, yeah. So, but it was actually really good because it got me motivated to the point where, okay, I didn't want to drink as much as I used to. I mean, I used to party all the time, and I stopped doing that for a while. And then I started smoking, and that was easy. I think I'd already quit before this, but this really solidified that because now I'm thinking, what can I do outside of training that's going to improve my training? I became obsessed with that. I became obsessed with performance. So I started getting my diet dialed in. I started getting healthier with things. I started playing around with different supplements. I just became obsessed with performance. And that actually worked in my favor because it made a lot of those distractions that were self-destructive fall by the wayside. They
Yeah.
were no longer prominent in my mind. And when I got to college, it was easy to fall back into that partying lifestyle, and I did to some extent, but I still maintained a pretty rigorous training schedule. I mean, I always got my workouts in. Even if I went out and partied one night and I wake up and you're hungover, I would just make myself go train. And back then, you can get away with stuff like that. If
Yeah.
I have drinks now, I forget it. I'll have a hangover the next day. I rarely ever drink. But back then, you could get away with it. So I still had those healthy habits even then.
Yeah. I remember drinking back in the 20s. I used to go to go drink, and I could go on a roller coaster the next day. Now I'm out of commission for 4 days.
Yeah. Drinking is so bad for you. It shuts down your testosterone production for days. Just one drink, it shuts down growth hormone for days. It destroys your sleep. And
I don't drink like I used to. I even a couple of years ago I was drinking like I haven't gotten drunk, and I can't even remember the last time now, but it used to be like a weekly occurrence for me.
oh yeah, yeah, I've been there.
I
And
still
look,
like
It's fun. I get it. I get the temptation. It's fun. It's fun as long as you're drunk too. But if you're not drunk and you're around a bunch of drunk people are categorically annoying. I always say that every drunk woman is possessed by the same demon because they all become extremely annoying.
I'm extremely annoying when I'm drunk. My wife will tell you.
Right, really too. You know? In my mind, I probably think I'm charming and eloquent, but I'm sure to everyone else, I'm annoying as well.
I've been a complete asshole around my wife being drunk. I'm not allowed to drink whiskey or anything because the Irish in me comes out really bad. And
something about whiskey too is it just brings out that kind of fear. It's like your anger comes out with it.
That's what it does to me. If I drink whiskey, I get angry and everybody in the room's against me for some reason. And
yeah.
So I just don't do it anymore.
Right.
I still have a beer every now and then, but it's not like before. I used to drink to get shit-faced, and now I don't really care anymore.
See, that's the same association I have because I started drinking heavily when I was in high school, when I was a teenager.
Me
and
too.
I'm not drinking because I like having a glass of wine after a day of school. I'm drinking to get wasted like everyone else is at that point. So now that's my association with alcohol, which is probably why I don't really touch it that much anymore, because I know plenty of people that have a drink or two and it's no big thing. It doesn't have any negative impact on their life. It doesn't make them an asshole. It doesn't ruin their work or anything else. It doesn't derail anything. But I'm an addictive personality type person. So I'm not going to, be all or nothing with me. Even I'm a cannabis fan. So it's easy for me to get into a habit of just taking an edible every night or smoking a little bit every night or vaping here and there. And I think I know plenty of people that use marijuana often and they're fine. They do well. It doesn't have a negative impact on their life at all. But that's them. I can't look at them and say, okay, well, I can do that too, because my personality is wired a lot differently than that. So it's easy for me to get into a habit of, let me just get high every night. Let me just wake up. I'm adrenaline based. I'm going to crush the day. And then I'm going to do this every night. And you don't think that it's having any real negative impact. You're like, yeah, I got this on lock. I'm okay. My business is doing great. Everything is doing fine. But there's a numbing that comes with it. And then you have to ask yourself, why are you chasing that numbing? And for me, it's because there's always some mental health thing that I'm trying to avoid dealing with.
I have the same addictive personality. It runs in my family. My father was a meth addict growing up.
Wow.
So I've seen it firsthand. That's why I've never got into any hard drugs. Because I made it a rule when I was in high school never to touch anything that I could overdose on.
Yeah.
But I probably would have, or I've had too many friends die, so I made it a rule never to do that. I've watched my dad go through too much shit when he was still alive that wrecked his whole life. So try not to touch. I never touched anything like that.
Yeah, that's really rough. But at least you learned that lesson from his mistakes or his addictive or his demons.
Yeah, as far as drugs, but I still got the personality where I didn't learn it from other shit.
That's not always a bad thing too, because I have an addictive personality as well, but all we have to do is point it in another direction.
Yeah, mine point the kettlebell training now.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, it's health and fitness. And so that's why I'm so obsessed with it, because my workouts do so much for my mental health. I love being physically strong. I love looking a certain way. But the most important thing that keeps me really consistent is that it's so good for my mood. And my mood can go to a dark place real fast if I don't stay on top of it. And physical training, more than anything else, and just long walks. Like yesterday, I had a lot on my mind. So I made myself work out, even though I was emotionally exhausted. I'm just going to make myself work out. I'm just going to push through it. And then I took my dog for a super long walk. And then I went skateboarding with her. I'm just going to wear myself out. I'm going to keep pushing myself physically so that I'm exhausted physically and can just relax. And it helped a lot. Now, it could have easily been taking that energy and going, okay, let me just go play cards for a little bit, have a couple drinks, and then come home and pop an edible. It could have easily been that choice too. But the choice I made yesterday was, I'm going to focus on this, because right now I'm going, I don't want to have an edible at all this month.
Okay.
Because I've had one every night for a long time, and I haven't felt it's had any negative impact in terms of my performance or anything I'm trying to get going. But I don't like the fact that it's become a habit. because I don't think that's healthy. I don't think it should be something where it's just
You
because
eat every night.
yeah, so it's just like brushing your teeth. It's like, oh, okay, it's 7 o'clock now. Let me grab one of these. Just because I don't want it to become a habit, and I also don't want it to be something I'm dependent on. I should be able to get into a relaxed state without taking anything. I should be able to be in a good mood without taking anything. And then if you're in that healthy state, if you partake in some of these things from time to time, that's not a big deal. But when it becomes something where it's every day, I know people who get up in the morning and they get high from like within minutes of being
I know
up.
people that spend their whole lives, their life, their whole conscious.
Yeah, they're never sober.
Yeah.
And that to me, I've never been that bad. Fortunately, I've never been someone where I wake up and I smoke a joint. That to me is depressing. That's the last thing on my mind. Honestly, I want to get my day going. I want to be in that adrenaline state. But it's that's where it can lead though. We can start with, let me just take this each night. Then it can become, well, why don't I just take it in the morning too? So why don't I take it before working out? Hell, why don't I just be in this state all day long, every day?
Yeah.
About that.
And then you're always that way.
Yeah. Then it's extremely difficult to cut out. So it's for people who deal with mental health issues or people who deal with any kind of addiction or struggle, you really have to point that in a positive direction, something that's good for you. And yes, it's definitely possible to overdo training. It's possible to overdo anything, but that's still a much better option than overdo the alternative.
Yeah, there's way worse alternatives. I love kettlebell training now. It's been such an awesome thing.
Is that your main focus right now? That's what you're doing each workout?
Yeah, that's all. I don't even have a gym membership anymore. I just work right out in my yard. I started out in April and we had the two 16-kilogram kettlebells that were door stops for 10 years.
Yeah.
At my house. And so I brushed them off, and my swing, when I look back at April, my swing form was so bad. Everything was terrible.
Yeah.
But over the past, since April, I started out with the two kettlebells. Now I have 12. Somebody on Reddit actually sent me a 48 kilogram for free, just because they're like, you inspire me. Let me send you one. And I was weird. To me that was awkward. I'm like, I don't want you to send me one. He kept like, let me send you one. I was like, okay, if you want to send me one, go ahead. And he did.
That's nice though. This is a random act of kindness, like I talked about today. Sometimes when people make an offer like that, you start going, okay, what are you trying to get out of this? And what's wrong with you? It's like, are you going to send me a dick pic with that kettlebell? What's going on?
Do I owe you something now? Or
yeah, exactly.
My wife was like, do you owe that guy? He's from Texas. So my wife's like, do you owe that guy in Texas a sexual favor now or something?
He's like, yeah, don't worry. I'll have a way to pay me back a little bit down the line.
Yeah, we'll work it out.
It's like, hey, remember that solid I did for you? Yeah, well, it's time for you to do a solid for me now. Fair is fair. So you got 12 kettlebells at home. And which are there certain bells that you focus on more than the others?
I just got the 32s are my favorite.
Right. That's me too.
But I just got a pair of 36s the other day that now I've used them every day since I got them.
Yeah.
I love them.
Yeah.
I love the 32s. I have the 40 that I really like.
Mm-hmm.
I like pressing the 40. I love pressing the 40. I posted that the other day. I pressed the 40, like 10 reps each side.
That's good, man. It's really good.
I love pressing. That's my.
Oh, me too. That was my focus when I was doing kettlebell. I mean, I still train with kettlebells, but it's not the only. Obviously, I do a variety of things now. From anyone who follows me, but I went through periods where I was only doing kettlebell training, and the double kettlebell military press was my favorite move, and it still is my favorite pressing move. My favorite overhead pressing move is what feels most comfortable for my body type. I love the way you can rack it and drive it off your body. I just love the feel of it altogether. And kettlebell swings, when people say, oh, you can do that with a dumbbell, I go, yeah, you can, but it doesn't feel anywhere near.
Why would you want to?
Yeah, exactly. It feels so awkward. The only reason you would do that is because that's all you have. If you have a choice between swinging a kettlebell or a dumbbell, no one's going to pick a dumbbell.
You can deadlift a kettlebell, but you'd much rather do it a barbell.
Yeah, right.
But now I'm kind of getting in the kettlebell sport just a little. The program I'm on now is, I don't know if you know Joe Daniels.
Sure, I know Joe really well.
So he does the program I'm doing now. So I bought two programs off of him. So he's been coaching me the last like
Yeah, he's a great
couple months.
trainer.
So he's putting out an intro to kettlebell sport, and everybody I've been following lately is into kettlebell sport. So I'm going to try that out, see how it is. I'm really bad at clean and jerk right now.
That's a tough move.
Yeah. It is, especially when you have nerve damage in your foot. So I can't really push off. You know, the push off is hard, but I've been working around it a little bit.
Yeah, and the nerve damage happened from the squat, right? When you were working on a PR.
It wasn't a PR. It was just a regular.
Okay. Well, that makes it even worse.
Yeah. It was a 425 squat, and it just like my belt popped open at the bottom of this when I was at the bottom, and I lost all tension, and the gym was full of people, and instead of just dropping it off my back like I should have, I pushed through, and when I got halfway up, I kind of twisted a little.
Yeah.
And that's when like my left side came up a little quick and twisted and felt a pop, and never been the same since.
That's terrible.
I had the sciatic nerve. It was a pinched sciatic nerve, and that was one of the most painful things I went through for like 2 months or so.
Did you go through any physical therapy after that happened? Yeah.
Yes, I did. I had to go to physical therapy. I went through physical therapy. I had this electro stimulus therapy like a couple times, and so it went away eventually. Like the pain went away, but the nerve damage. It's not numb feeling anymore. I just can't like push off.
Yeah. You can't even move that area.
I can kind of like, if I'm sitting down, I can kind of push off. Like right now I can push off, but when I get like weight on it, it's like dead almost. So it's real weak. I could probably strengthen it over time. And I think the more I lose weight, the better.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it is.
There may be some things that can help with that. There may be some peptides that can help improve that neurological damage or nerve damage rather. So I was just reading about that. Let me see if I come across that later. I'll send it out to you. Sure. So there may be some things you can do. I mean, with physical, I always say I brought up the physical therapy because that's so important after any injury. A lot of people get injured and they just try to let their natural healing powers get them through it, and you never heal properly when that happens. I had this groin injury in 2019, right before I had that horrible flu. So 2019 in a lot of ways was a way year for me than last year, right? But in 2019, I had this groin injury where I had this pain like right there at the insertion point on my right side. And it was from doing trap bar deadlifts. I remember I tried to hit a PR before going on vacation, and then the bar didn't move, but the pain definitely stayed there. Yeah. So I just put the bar down immediately because I knew it wasn't going to go, but something was off, either in my setup, I don't know. But that pain was there for a couple of days, and then it went away. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm good. So then I started doing trap bar deadlifts again. This time I was at the gym, and I was doing deficit trap bar, which is not as smart as you have any kind of injury because it requires so much range of motion. And I was doing my warm-up sets, and the pain kept building with each set. So I go, okay, let me stop at 4 plates instead of going to 5. I'll just do 4 plates, do a couple sets of 3, take it easy today. The first rep of that first set, I felt the tear. I mean, it felt like something stretched, like a rubber band. It was a really eerie feeling. So I dropped the bar immediately, and I tried to walk it off. I was like, let me move around a little bit. And it was so painful, but being the super smart guy I am, I continued to just work out anyway, not doing deadlifts. But I go, since I'm here, let me just do some upper body stuff, and then I'll get going. And then I tried to do my normal stretching routine afterwards, where I use the bands, and I couldn't do any of that stuff. And I could barely stand up from a lying position. I had to roll to my side and just kick one leg out and try to get up. And then on the drive home, I was seriously considering just going right to the hospital. I mean, it was painful. I go, man, I really fucked up this time. This could be something that requires surgery. I mean, this is super painful. This can't just be like a little wear and tear. And I remember lying on on the sofa I'm on right now. It's in my office. I was just lying back, and I tried to sit up, and I couldn't sit up at all. The pain was so sharp. It just shot from that pubic bone area right there in the groin all the way up to my midsection. Now, long story short, I started going to physical therapy like 2 days later. This happened on a Saturday, so I couldn't get in until Monday. But Monday, I went to a guy who's an active release technique practitioner here in Vegas, and he's a chiropractor, but he's so much more gifted than just saying a chiropractor. He's definitely a healer, a physical therapist. His name is Dr. Booth. And I started going to him, and he tried to work on that area. And it was so painful. I mean, he could even put a little bit of pressure. So it took a time for him to really get in there. It was going to be a while. But after about 2 weeks, I would say maybe 80% of the pain was gone, and I was able to resume training. I wasn't able to do deadlifts off the floor, but I remember I was able to do partials just below the knee. And that gave me a lot of solace. I go, okay, I can get things going again. I don't need to do what I was doing before. This is fine. I'll gradually work my way up to it. There were certain moves that didn't cause any pain, like leg extensions, which I never used to do, but I need to work with what I can do right now, so I can't be picky about the movements. I couldn't do any kind of squatting move, not even box squats, which I was doing before, because that just fired up that whole area. It took many months. Now, about maybe a week after that, I was about a 90% recovery, and then I got stem cells injected right in there, and that pushed me over where the pain was completely gone most of the time. Sometimes I would go hiking and I would stretch, I would pivot a certain way.
Yeah, just that quick reaction.
Yeah. I would feel it, but it wouldn't flare up again. But I don't think it would have healed that fast, for sure, if I didn't get therapy. And I also don't think it would have healed properly, because now I don't have that pain at all. I can go sprinting. I'm doing box jumps. I'm doing everything I did pre-injury.
How long did you do therapy for?
Probably, I think about a month.
Yeah, mine was about a month.
2 times a week for about a month. And it was extremely painful sessions too, but it was necessary, so I welcomed it. I go, this is what I need to deal with right now.
Mine was embarrassing because I was a strong guy and I just had nothing when they were trying to work. It's like they put me on a step, and they're like, push off the step, and I just had like nothing. I'm like, I swear I'm strong. That for me was like a big, when I got injured there, that was like a big ego blow, because like that was what in the gym, at least I was strong. I was a fat guy, but at least I was strong. You know what I mean? Not a bodybuilder or anything. That was like my identity. So then I got that injury, and I'm like, now I have no identity anymore, because I couldn't. Because like when I injured my back, the next day I went and squatted again like a moron, and I had 225 on the bar, and I actually had to have somebody help me up, because I had and I'm squatting. Before I was squatting, like my max at the time was 485. Yeah. So I was doing, like, I could do 225 for 20 reps at the time. I had one rep on, and I got down, and I think what it was now was I was leaning forward, and I didn't know at the time that I couldn't push off on my toes. So I went forward a little, and I just went down almost. 2 dudes had to help me up. That was pretty embarrassing.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, I need to go see a doctor and get help.
Yeah, the sooner you get the physical therapy, the better. Whenever someone has a serious injury, I mean, if you can get treatment that day, start the treatment, that would actually help. If I could have gotten stem cells that day, it would have helped. I didn't get stem cells right away just because I felt that would have been premature, actually. I mean, I think it would have helped, but I needed someone to get in there and work out this inflammation. It was not as simple as, oh yeah, let me just get an injection right in there and I'll be good in 24 hours. I think stem cells can have real benefits for sure, but they need, right now it's not magic. Often they're talked about like this magic elixir. Oh, I had this pain and I got this one injection and I feel a million times better. And hey, I hope whoever says that I hope that's true. I hope it really did do that. But I don't feel that that's where it's at right now, at least not from my experience. I think it's really useful, but it doesn't take the place of the physical therapy, which I think is still paramount. That has to happen for a full recovery. Because otherwise, this injury, like this groin injury, if I just tried to let it heal on its own, it would have gotten better eventually, but it would have been easy to get re-injured as well.
Really quick.
It didn't heal properly. Yeah, it didn't heal properly. So it would have been an impediment. It would have been something where I'm going, oh, well, I guess I can't do this anymore. When in the reality is, if I got treatment, I could have gone back to normal. And I'm someone like you just said, I identify as being this strong man. That's a strong part of my identity. It gives me a lot of confidence. I like the way I feel. I like the way I'm perceived, all of that stuff. So if I lose that, you start thinking, who am I now? Yeah. I'm just a shell of myself if I'm not strong.
Depressing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's really depressing. It's also something though that when I see older people that are just beaten up, most of the time these are people who didn't take care of themselves throughout their life. But that is really depressing to me. That's often a motivator of, forget about how much you can lift all the time. Let's stay as healthy as possible. Let's make sure our mobility is on point. I want to be able to go skateboarding and go hiking and go do snowboarding, go do fun things that require physical activity, as opposed to let me just get really strong right now, but then I get injured and then I can't be physically active anymore.
That's what that injury did for me, the back injury, because like at the time I could barely walk. Like I was getting that shooting pain down my leg from the sciatic nerve injury. Like, and it felt like it was weird because it wasn't consistent. Like I'd be fine for a minute, I'd be walking, and then all of a sudden it felt like somebody shot you in the back. Like it would just shoot down my leg, and it was terrible. And I have, like, at the time my son was like 1 year old, and I'm like, I don't want to go through life like, so that made me stop powerlifting. I'm like, does it matter what number? Who the hell cares if I can deadlift 500, 600 pounds? What's that matter in the grand scheme of things? So that led me more toward, I still want to get in shape, and I still like to lift like fairly heavy, but kettlebells, lifting kettlebells heavy compared to like powerlifting isn't.
Yeah,
it's not the same, but but it's still. At least now I want to stay like it's still physical activity, and it's still getting me strong. But you see people like that are in the kettlebell sport. Like there's this guy Jerry Gray, I think his name is, 80 years old.
Yeah, I know him. Yeah.
Yeah, 80 years old. The guy's like snatching still, and like that's the kind of longevity I want. I want to be 80 years old throwing, like, snatching around. So that's awesome.
He's awesome, and I knew him when he first got back into physical training years ago, because I know his wife as well, Liberty. She's really cool. I was teaching at the Pavel's RKCs at that time, and they came through the course. And I remember when he first started training, he's not a guy who's been fit his entire life. He started really getting into
really?
As a much older guy. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I don't know for sure his history. I don't know if when he was younger, if he was really into fitness. Not to say that he was out of shape when I first met him, but he was nothing like he is now. He just transformed. So I remember I saw him one year at this medical conference I went to, an anti-aging conference. And then I saw him maybe 2 years later at a course I was teaching in Michigan with my friend Kim Blackburn. And it was unrecognizable. I was like, wow, I can't believe that's him. He looked great, strong. I could tell I could see the confidence in him too. I could see how he carried himself, how much better he felt, how it affected how he carried himself. So that was really cool to see. Yeah, he's a great example.
Yeah, I want to be 80 someday. Like, I'm 43. I just turned 43 last week, and I want that kind of longevity. I want to have plenty, because I didn't start lifting. Like, I didn't start seriously lifting until my 30s. So
right.
I don't feel old. Like, I never go out in my yard and start training and like, I feel old and beat up today. I haven't had that. Like, I feel like a 40-year-old man moment yet in life.
Right.
So I want to keep feeling that way. I want to keep, like, I look at like Dan John, 63, and still doing. He just did an Olympic meet like a month ago. Olympic lifting meet. So
that's super impressive. Olympic lifting at that age. That's really. Yeah. That's impressive at any age, but at that age, it requires a lot of flexibility and mobility and strength. Yeah, there's so many good examples of like that. You see people like that on YouTube all the time, 80-year-old bodybuilder, or here's a guy who's 65 and they're jacked and they're strong and they're healthy. It's much different than when we grew up. When we grew up, because I'm 47, so we're in the same generation. So when we grew up in the 1980s, you would see someone who's 65 on TV, and they looked like they were 110. Yeah. That's an old man right there. There was no one who was 65 where you were going, oh wow, that guy's 65. He looks like he's 43.
Yeah.
They look like old people. And now you see people like Sylvester Stallone that are still really into training. You see people like Schwarzenegger that they're much older guys, but they're still jacked. They're still really into training. And those are just two celebrity examples. There's thousands of regular folk examples.
My mom's 67. And if you would see her, she's not like the 60. You wouldn't think she's an old lady. Like,
right.
She's like, my mom's like weighs 120 pounds, stays active all the time. She has more energy than I do. When she'll play with my son for 12 hours straight, nonstop.
Right.
So that's probably why she's doing good with COVID too, as well.
Yeah, no, thank God. Because people don't know, but your mother she got diagnosed with COVID maybe a week ago.
A couple days Monday.
Ago. Okay.
What's today? Yep. Today is.
Yeah, it's Friday. Yeah.
Yeah, it was Tuesday, I think. A couple, like 2 days ago, 2 or 3 days ago, she got it. She got told. Her friend got it really bad. She was with her friend, and then she has like almost no symptoms. So
yeah, that's great.
But she's been taking I called her and I started following. I've been following your advice for a while. So I've been taking like vitamin D, C, zinc. I take magnesium. I take quercetin every day. So I told her to take all this stuff. She happened to just already be taking all that because she found out about quercetin from some women's magazine like 2 months ago. So I was shocked when she's like, "Oh, what's the stuff called?" And I told her, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I have that right here. I've been taking that for about 2 months."
Does she live in Philly as well, or where is she based?
She just moved, actually. She lived in Philly. She lived in the same house for 67 years.
Wow.
And she finally just sold her house about 2 months ago, and she moved down to Ocean City, New Jersey. She bought a little condo because actually before she moved, she just got robbed at gunpoint like 2 months ago. So it was time to move anyway.
Wow, that's heavy.
Right outside her house on a Sunday morning at 8 a.m.
And this is in Philadelphia that happened?
Yeah.
Wow.
South Philadelphia, right outside where I grew up. It's still a pretty decent neighborhood, but it happens.
Yeah.
Major city, it happens. I still work in Philly, so I got my car broken into like a month ago. They shattered out my window. So
oh man.
Yeah, that was a rough week.
Yeah, that's not fun.
But she just moved down here, but she was actually staying at my brother's house so he's got to go get tested now too because she went. My brother's daughter has had to get surgery on her spine. She has, I forget what, scoliosis.
Yeah.
Got scoliosis, so she had to go get surgery. So my brother has two 6-year-old twin boys. So my mom went to his house. He lives right outside of Philly, to watch the kids. And when she was there, she went to visit her friend that she hasn't seen since she moved. And then her friend's the one that had COVID. So that's how it all happened.
It can happen so easily, just contacts. Sometimes when you don't know anyone, when it hasn't happened to you and you don't know anyone that it's happened to, you start thinking, okay, I'm disconnected from this. This is someone else's problem. Yeah. But now at the beginning of the pandemic, I didn't know anyone who was dealing with COVID, but now I know quite a few people that have had it.
I was exposed to it. I work overnights, so I work night work. I work 10 to 6. So night work is kind of calm in my work. But I went to day work for a week to help set up these robots and stuff. And on day work, I got exposed 3 different times. My one supervisor, and the contact tracing was pretty poor because I found out secondhand, but I was around 2 contractors that tested positive for it the next week. And then my supervisor, who I was also around. So I was exposed 3 times. Luckily, I always had a mask on, and they gave us the KN95 masks. So
okay, good.
So I didn't have it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, those masks work, especially the K95 ones. Yeah. Those are very effective. So, I mean, with your mom, fortunately, though, she's not dealing with any serious symptoms. She's a really healthy lady. So she hopes she can just relax at home for a bit, take it easy, get through this. And that's
still a nervous wreck about it. I mean,
of course. You're talking to her each day, I imagine.
Yeah, as soon as I wake up, I text her or call her, and then she's like, me and my son Skyped with her last night, and you wouldn't even know. She sounds like just how me and you were talking. She sounds fine. She's talking, so
that's
that way.
Best case scenario. I mean, the best case scenario is you don't get exposed, but if you do, that's the second best case scenario. So I think she's perfectly fine.
She besides she's pretty healthy, but she has asthma too. So that's why I was worried because she has asthma, and she's been. But I've just read a study that they say now that they think asthma patients do better with it.
Oh, really?
There's something about the Primatene mist or whatever they use.
Yeah, right.
It builds up in their lungs and it might help them. Just a study I see. I may be wrong, but
that makes sense actually. In fact, when I had that horrible flu I was telling you about, which honestly feels just like COVID. When I hear people talk about COVID, people who have the more serious symptoms, that's what I had with this really nasty flu in 2019. And part of the treatment process, antibiotics, and it was also that inhaler that asthmatics use. I actually had to use it for about a week. And that actually did help a lot because my lungs got hit really hard where I would be coughing all the time, or if I exerted myself in any way, I would start coughing, especially just even walking my dogs around the block, you're just constantly coughing. That alone is a horrible feeling. Yeah. And the inhaler actually helped quite a bit. It gave me some relief. So now that you're saying all that, it actually makes a lot of sense. Maybe she's already in a state where she can handle that more effectively. than someone else.
Knock on wood, I've only experienced a cough like that one time in my life. I've got like bronchitis, and that was it. I generally don't ever get really sick, so I don't want to say that now. Knock on wood, but
I haven't gotten as sick. I haven't gotten as sick as I did in 2019. Since I haven't gotten sick at all actually since then, and it had been a long time. I've had colds and some mild flus here and there, nothing major. A couple days you kick it. So it had been a long time before I got hit with something like that. But I've had pneumonia before, and I've had this kind of respiratory distress before. In 2002, I got hit really hard with it. So I know that I don't have any illusions that I can't get hit with it again. But that makes me more focused on doing all the right things. Like, honestly, I haven't been too worried with this pandemic because I feel like I'm doing all the right things, personally. I feel like I'm protecting something like quercetin. It's not proven, but more and more data is showing that it protects cells from viruses, including earlier iterations of COVID, such as SARS. And I've been taking that the whole time. My friend Dr. Mark Gordon cued me in on that probably in March. And then I've been vitamin C. I eat really healthy. I'm sleeping well. I'm doing all the right things. And then there's really not a whole lot to do out in the world. I mean, Vegas is somewhat of a ghost town. The casinos are open, but there's nothing really going on there. If you're not gambling, then there aren't any shows. A lot of the restaurants aren't even open. So I'm still out and about living my life, but I feel between me taking my health really seriously and the limited exposure I have, because I'm not interacting with too many people, I'm not worried about it.
The only concern I had is my wife's a teacher, so that she every year when school starts up, she comes home and gets sick every single year. So this year she was on a leave for a while, and then they did virtual schooling. Right now they're virtual, so when she goes back, like, that's a concern of mine. But
probably I don't know if anyone's going to go back to that until we're well through this whole thing.
We'll see how it goes. They might not. I don't know. In New Jersey, it's different. They leave it up to each school district. It's not like statewide or countywide. Each school district has their own say.
Yeah.
Whether they want to go back or not. So
I see. See, that's good and bad. I think America's been hit so aggressively. I mean, there's a lot of reasons, but I think some of the reasons are we haven't had a collective national plan.
There's no mask mandate or.
Yeah, exactly. We're not unified as one country in terms of dealing with this. Now, when you look at countries that have done really well with it, New Zealand and Australia come to mind first. I mean, New Zealand got through this a long time ago. They got back. Long time ago. Now it's a much smaller population, obviously, in a much smaller country. But in addition to that, they fell in line with the mandates that were suggested. They go, we want everyone to do this. We want everyone to do this for this amount of period of time.
And everyone did it.
There weren't protests in the street. There weren't like, oh, you're trying to take away our rights. And first we have to wear masks, and then you're going to take away our guns, and then you're going to take away our freedoms and all that. None of that stuff happened. They actually trust their elected officials. And they felt, okay, if our elected officials are telling us to do this, it must be the right thing to do. They fell in line. They got through it. Australia, similar thing from what I've read. I haven't looked into it too closely.
Australia was doing really good. And then I forget what happened. This was in the summer. In the summer, they had almost 0 cases.
Yeah.
And some tourist from somewhere else came and brought something in. And then I think they had a spike, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure where they're at right now with it, because I was following it for a while.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that. I'm pretty sure they're doing well now. So I remember seeing something about Melbourne. And I've been to Melbourne and Sydney. I actually taught about there. Great country, great places. I noticed that there's people gathering in massive numbers for New Year's Eve celebrations.
Yeah, New Zealand had like a soccer game where they let everybody in the stadium and all. It was like,
I'm pretty sure no one was wearing masks, right? I'm not sure that.
No, because
they
don't have to.
Right, exactly. Now, America is a much different situation.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that's going to get us through this is a combination of
the vaccine.
Yeah. Now, people are going, I'm not going to take the vaccine. We don't know if it's safe. And I understand all those reservations. But this is an acute situation right now. We don't have time to figure out what the best option is in 7 years, because right now it's too much.
Yeah. I just signed up for our state as a sign-up thing, so I signed up for it.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the people that are like, I'm definitely not going to get that. I'm like, well, I mean, you're the one who needs it, more than anyone else. You're the one who's going to have serious symptoms if you get this.
Yeah.
So, someone like me, I could make that argument, but you, I don't think so. You need to
No.
get that.
Having said that, I'm going to do everything. Like I'm going to, like you just said, I'm going to sleep right. I'm going to eat right. I'm going to train right and do everything. That's what got me on this journey in the first place. It took a pandemic to kick me in the ass, but that's what got me here. And I'm going to keep doing everything I can to protect myself from it. But when there's something like that, like here's a vaccine, I want to take it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So we all need to do everything we can for the good of everyone out there as well.
It gets real when you know people that have actually died from it.
Yeah.
I've had two coworkers. My boss, who was like a mentor to me, just died the other day.
Yeah.
It. So
that's terrible.
When that happens, it gets real,
Yeah. The closest person that has died to me, and my father had a business partner for this fly fishing business he has, and that guy unfortunately died on a respirator. Worst case scenario, his son wasn't able to see him.
Yeah, that's terrible.
And I've known Jim I don't know, maybe my entire life, but definitely since I was a teenager. I've known him for a long time. Great guy, very friendly guy. So I was really disheartened to hear that when it happened. And it's really an extra level of despair because family couldn't even be around him.
Yeah, you have to die alone.
On a respirator. Yeah, I mean, that's a horrible way to go.
My one coworker that died from it, I don't know if they classify him as a COVID death because he was in the hospital. His wife got it, and he was like over 400 pounds. This guy, he was working from home at the time because he was an office worker at my job, so they got to work from home. His wife got it, and he was taking care of his wife. Then he got it, so he was in the hospital, and he was on a ventilator twice.
Wow.
He actually survived that and got sent home, and he was home for about 6 months, 5 or 6 months. And we talked to him a couple times, and we thought, Bruce is recovering. He's getting better because we talked to him on the phone. But we found out he never actually walked again or anything. He was just living on one floor and then just eventually died.
Oh, wow.
That's a terrible way, 6 months just not walking and just being on one floor in your house.
Yeah. I almost wish people could get a tour of what's going on in so many hospitals. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you can't do that for a lot of reasons, but I think that would make it more real for people. People that are going, oh, this is a media-created hype. It's not that big of a deal. And that line of thinking is really scary.
One of my friend's dads he's an anesthesiologist in a hospital in New York City. So he was on the front lines for this thing. And when it happened, he started a blog. And he was writing, so he would send us emails every night of what he was seeing. And that scared the shit out of me, reading his emails. So I would send them out to people I know as much as I could, because just to forward the reality of the situation, this isn't some, it's not some media hype to control you and take your freedoms. It's people are actually dying.
Yeah. I think it's easy to be disconnected when it hasn't affected you or your immediate circle, or even your outer circle. It's going, oh, I don't know anyone who has this. This can't be a big deal. So I don't know any parents that have lost their kids to human trafficking either, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. It happens in massive numbers. It happens to millions of kids all over the world. I don't have to know someone personally or be affected personally for me to realize that's a serious problem and I should do something about it. I should at least help organizations that are doing something about it.
Thanks for posting that the other day too.
Oh, my pleasure, man. Yeah,
I've never heard of that before, and I sent a donation to that, and then a couple other people I know did too.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for helping out with that. Yeah, Project Child Save is such a good organization. Ty Ritter's the founder, and he and a team of former operators, they go into different countries around the world and rescue kids from this horrific situation of sex slavery, human trafficking. And they put their lives on the line because this is all done under the radar. It's not like they're getting their passport stamped when they go to these countries. They have to fly in surreptitiously and risk possible death, or if they're captured, worse than death.
Yeah.
Get these kids out of this horrible situation.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah, no one takes a salary in this organization. No one's getting paid. These guys all have day jobs. 100% of the donations go to fund these missions. 100% of it. And I don't mean their meals or their beer tab or anything like that. I mean fuel in the plane, whatever weapons they need, whatever armory they need, that's where it goes to. So whenever someone donates to it, I go, rest assured that you're helping save people's lives. It's not going to like, okay, $1 out of every 25 actually go to, the purpose that they're doing. So
I have a 2-year-old, so I like, you know what I mean? I put him in that situation, and it like breaks my heart thinking about anything like that. So
yeah,
anything to help.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, that's great. So I'm always trying to get as much awareness of that organization out there as much as possible, because sometimes people want to be generous, but they're going, look, I don't want to send money to some organization and then find out later that it's just going to someone's trust fund.
Yeah.
There's so many shady organizations, and I understand that completely. But whenever I recommend an organization, you can rest assured I've done my due diligence. One, I'm donating. I've never asked someone to do what I'm not doing. One, I'm definitely a financial supporter, and two, I've looked into it. And a lot of times I'm usually friends with whoever runs it or someone who's higher up in it. So I have an inside track of what's going on there. So whenever I recommend something, it's not something where I just hear about it and go, oh yeah, that looks like a good cause.
Yeah.
As much as you would like to think everyone has the right intentions, and I think a lot of people do, some don't. And you definitely don't want to support the ones that are taking advantage of people's emotions. But that's an organization I recommend wholeheartedly. Project Child Save is awesome. Ty Ritter's been on my podcast. I do with Sincere many times, and you can hear the authenticity in his voice. I go, this guy's either an Oscar deserving, award winning actor, or what he's saying is actually what he's experiencing, because you can hear the toll this line of work takes on him. He's not this smiling, I'll be like, hey, we just saved 5 kids. He's not like that. He's you can't even imagine what these people see when they go into these places. He's told the stories, and those stories are horrific. And what's even more horrific, he goes, what I just told you is maybe a 2 or 3 on a scale of 1 to 10.
Yeah.
So I don't even want to know what 10.
I don't either.
Yeah, and I don't need to know, because I'm in. I'm going to support you guys. What you told me is enough. I'm in. I don't need more convincing. Well, cool, man. I think this is a good place to wrap up. I don't want to keep you all. I appreciate everything. What's your Instagram handle? Let's get people following you. You put up a lot of good posts.
Thanks. It's Big Tim 27.
Perfect. So I'm going to put that in the notes. Let me just go ahead and stop recording here. Okay.